Welcome to Classic Books Recaps, where the greatest stories ever written are brought back to life in minutes. Whether you're revisiting a favorite or discovering a new classic, you've come to the right place. Remember to hit subscribe and join us on a journey through the greatest novels ever written. Now, let's dive into today's story. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, a story of guilt, redemption, and the human soul. In the slums of 19th century St. Petersburg, we meet Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov, a destitute ex-student living in isolation. He's intelligent, brooding, and dangerously idealistic. Obsessed with the idea that some people, extraordinary individuals, are above moral law, he begins to believe that certain crimes are justified if they lead to a greater good. He sets his sights on Alyona Ivanovna, a greedy old pawnbroker whom he views as a parasite preying on the poor. Raskolnikov convinces himself that killing her, and using her money for noble purposes, would be not just excusable but morally right. He tells himself he's doing it for humanity. But beneath this intellectual reasoning lies desperation, pride, and psychological instability. One hot July day, Raskolnikov puts his theory to the test. He enters the pawnbroker's apartment under the pretense of pawning a watch. Once inside, he strikes her with an axe, killing her. But unexpectedly, her innocent sister, Lizaveta, walks in. In a panic, Raskolnikov kills her too. The act is not clean or calculated. It's messy, chaotic, and leaves him rattled. He flees the scene, barely avoiding detection, and hides the stolen items under a rock rather than keeping the money. Though he escaped the law, he does not escape guilt. The psychological punishment begins almost immediately. In the aftermath, Raskolnikov becomes delirious. He collapses into fever and confusion, isolated in his tiny room. Friends try to help, including Razumikin, his cheerful and loyal former classmate, but Raskolnikov pushes everyone away. He swings between arrogance and anguish, at times convinced he was right, at other times overcome by remorse. Even mundane interactions fill him with anxiety. His mental state deteriorates rapidly, and his guilt festers. Meanwhile, police begin investigating the murders. Porfiry Petrovich, the astute and philosophical detective, suspects Raskolnikov. But instead of confronting him directly, Porfiry begins a psychological cat-and-mouse game. Raskolnikov's descent is interrupted when he meets Sofia Semyonovna Marmeladova, known as Sonia. She's the daughter of a drunkard, forced into prostitution to support her starving family. Despite her tragic life, she remains gentle, devout, and full of compassion. Sonia is Raskolnikov's moral opposite. Where he intellectualizes suffering, she bears it quietly. Where he seeks power, she seeks faith. Drawn to her warmth, Raskolnikov confides in her. He finds comfort in her presence, even as he hides the terrible truth. Sonia becomes the voice of redemption in his life, urging him toward confession and spiritual awakening. As Raskolnikov struggles with guilt, other dramas unfold. His sister, Dunya, arrives in the city with their mother, Pulcheria Alexandrovna. Dunya is engaged to Luzin, a wealthy but arrogant man who believes marrying a poor girl will ensure his dominance. Raskolnikov immediately dislikes Luzin, suspecting selfish motives. Eventually, Dunya breaks off the engagement, refusing to sacrifice her dignity. But another threat appears, Svidrigailov, Dunya's former employer. He's wealthy, immoral, and obsessed with her. Though he offers help, his intentions are deeply suspect. He too becomes entangled in Raskolnikov's dark moral web. Raskolnikov's behavior grows more erratic. He visits the murder scene. He engages in strange conversations with Porfiry, who clearly suspects him but never arrests him. Instead, Porfiry prods Raskolnikov's conscience, predicting he will eventually confess. Tension builds when a false confession from a mentally disturbed man complicates the case. Raskolnikov is momentarily relieved, but the burden of guilt remains. Sonia urges him to read the story of Lazarus from the Bible about resurrection after death. This is symbolic. Sonia believes Raskolnikov's soul, though buried in sin, can be brought back to life through repentance. Svidrigailov reveals he overheard Raskolnikov's confession to Sonia. At first, he seems ready to blackmail him, but instead, he surprises everyone. Svidrigailov, haunted by his own sins and rejected by Dunya, gives money to Sonia for Raskolnikov's family, and then takes his own life. This moment forces Raskolnikov to reflect. Svidrigailov followed his selfish path to the end, and it led to death. Is that the future Raskolnikov wants? Meanwhile, Porfiry finally confronts Raskolnikov and gently encourages him to turn himself in, not out of fear, but to find peace. There is still hope, he says, if Raskolnikov chooses the difficult road of redemption. Raskolnikov walks through the city in torment. Pride still lingers in him. He feels above ordinary men, still clinging to his theory. But the emotional pressure, combined with Sonia's quiet support, becomes unbearable. At last, in a powerful and quiet scene, he falls to his knees in a public square and kisses the earth. He confesses to the murder at the police station. It's not theatrical. It's simple, human, and full of pain. For the first time, Raskolnikov truly accepts moral responsibility. He is sentenced to 8 years in a Siberian penal colony. Sonia follows him, living nearby, remaining his unwavering support. In prison, Raskolnikov is cold and distant at first. He keeps to himself, still wrestling with pride. But Sonia visits him regularly, bringing light into his gray world. One day, he finally breaks. He weeps in front of her, not because of his punishment, but because of his spiritual emptiness. In that moment, something changes. He begins to feel not just guilt, but love. Not just punishment, but the stirrings of redemption. The book ends not with a full transformation, but with hope. Raskolnikov opens the New Testament Sonia gave him. The rest of his journey is beginning. Crime and Punishment is not just a tale of murder. It's a psychological and philosophical masterpiece. Dostoevsky takes us deep into the mind of a man who believes he can play God, and shows us how guilt, suffering, and compassion slowly break down that illusion. Raskolnikov's journey isn't about legal justice. It's about the soul. And in the end, the punishment that matters most isn't prison. It's the pain we carry until we seek forgiveness. If you enjoyed this recap of Crime and Punishment, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hit the bell for more classic books recaps. Let us know which story you'd like next in the comments.